Hey there, so you're looking to buy in the Central Texas area? Well, today we're going to be talking about what buyers should not do when buying properties. For more info, stay tuned. Hey there, again, my name is Jacob Martinez and I'm with the Living in Central Texas channel. And if this is the first time to the channel, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified about what's going on here in the Central Texas market. So today we're going to be talking about what buyers should not do when buying property, okay? When buying real estate. And I think this is very important because a lot of times, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions or misinterpretations of what they can and cannot do. But today is going to be very important if you're looking to buy property. So let's get right at it. Number one, what people should not do is not getting pre-approved for a loan, right? So if people do not get pre-approved for a loan, that is going to be a little bit difficult. Why? Because a pre-approval not only gives you a clearer idea of how much you can afford, but it also strengthens your position when making an offer. Okay, and this is very true, right? So it lets you know right off the bat how much house you can buy, right? Depending on your job, depending on how much savings you have, your income, your debt, all of these things are taken into account, your credit, right? And so when a lender is looking at all your finances, they're going to make sure that you become a solid buyer. So if you're not pre-approved or approved, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to get you there. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot be pre-approved, just because if you have a pre-qualification, you can still go out there, look at houses. But a pre-approval in the eyes of the seller is going to be like a verified buyer. So in other words, when you're submitting an offer and somebody is pre-approved, but the other person is only pre-qualified, the seller is going to look at the buyer that's most likely pre-approved because they have gone through everything that has to be done with the lender so that the lender can certify and say, yep, this buyer is solid. So if you want to become a solid buyer, you always want to get that pre-approval, right? So if you're in the area and you need a lender to speak to, because every lender is different. You're going to have lenders that only lend to people that are farmers, right? Agricultural land, right? But then most lenders will always lend if you're FHA, if you're a VA buyer, conventional, okay? But if you do not have someone that you trust, you can always reach out, let us know, and we'll help you. It doesn't matter what state, but if you're definitely here in the Central Texas area, in the Killeen Temple area, will definitely help you guys out. So number two, things not to do is skipping the home inspection. This is very important, guys. A home inspection is an essential step in ensuring the property is free of hidden problems. Without it, you can inherit issues like faulty plumbing, electrical, or even structural damage, right? Even though a home inspection is not required, okay, I personally tell my buyers, we need to get a home inspection. You do not want to get caught with your pants down, moving into a house, and then all of a sudden you find electrical issues everywhere. You find that the house has foundation, even though that can be noticeable at times, and many times when you're walking through the property. But the reason why it's so important is because you want to make sure that what you're buying is to your liking and it's not going to be a burden financially for you. That can also become an emotional strain because some people are going to be like, well, what did I buy? Right? It can also be a psychological thing where people can be like, dude, I should have never bought this thing. Now I have a headache. I have a monster. And how do I make these repairs? Okay. So this is why a home inspection is always important, because throughout the process, you get the inspection report from the inspector after he inspects the property. You look at what things should get fixed and you send it over to the seller. And that doesn't mean that they are going to do it, but that's why you always have to have a good agent in your corner to be able to negotiate those repairs for you. Okay, so never skip a home inspection, even though it's not required by the lender. Okay, very important. Now, number three, and things for not to do, is overextending financially. So why is this a very crucial point? Buyers sometimes focus too much on monthly payment and fail to account for the other costs associated with home ownership, which is very true. A lot of times people sometimes focus, well, how much is that going to be? $1,500 payment, $2,000 payment. I got a good job, I can make it. But you also have a light bill, you have a water bill, okay? You have cable or phone bill, internet, right? You have subscriptions online like Netflix and stuff that you guys are in there. What about your groceries, right? The cost of living has gone up. What about car payments, credit cards? So you see, you have to, when buying a home, you have to look at the overall picture, because you do not want to put yourself in a financial burden where, unfortunately, some buyers, right? I've heard stories, and some of these stories you can even find on YouTube, of people that have bought property before, and unfortunately their agent, or maybe they weren't prepared, or they decided to buy. Most of these things happen, I'm going to be honest with you, when people do it without an agent. The purpose of an agent is to protect you from your own self a lot of times, okay? Because you're excited, you're emotional, you're ready to rock and roll, but then you get caught in a situation where then now you are getting foreclosed on because you couldn't make the payments on the house. This is not what we want for you, right? An agent does not want that for you, okay? So we always want to bring you a little bit back down to earth, because the emotions are high. You know, you're dreaming about raising your kids there, or maybe even downsizing and stuff. And so you take the plunge and forget about the other costs. So overextending yourself financially, this is not a thing that we want you to do, okay? Number 4, okay, and what buyers should not do is not considering future resale, okay? This is crucial. Why? Because let's say, even if you plan on living in the home for many years, it's essential to consider how easy it will be to sell in the future. Factors like location, neighborhood, and condition of the property can impact its resale value. This is true, guys. Just because you have a certain taste, right, a certain way of living, does not mean that the person behind you is going to be exactly the same as you. So whenever you want to buy a property, unless you're an investor, right, and you want to buy a property, you want to buy a property where the location that it's going to be, it's relatively safe, blue collar people, right, blue collar workers, people that go to work, come back home, they're raising their kids, they want to be close to shopping, they want to be or feel secure that their neighborhood is safe, or have emergency services like the police or fire department if something were to happen. Okay, these are factors that you also have to look into. Are they convenient for you? Great. Will they be convenient for the person behind you once you decide to sell? Well, Jacob, I'm not looking to sell. Well, you never know. Life happens, right? You can live in a house here in our area, because we have a military base. It's very common for people to buy a house and 2 to 3 years later they leave, because a lot of the people that live here are military related. They're active duty members. And so they get PCS'd in, and then they get PCS'd out, right? They change their stations, permanent change of station. And so a lot of times they're buying, and 2 or 3 years later, they're selling, right? Now, you may not necessarily be in the military, but what if a sickness or a health issue, right, occurs? Or let's say you found a better job somewhere and your company's moving, and they're telling you, hey, now we got to go cross country to go to this new headquarters that we're opening, and you need to move within the next 4 to 5 months, right? So never ever think, unless you know for certain that this is going to be your forever home, that your resale value is not going to be impacted by location, repairs, and all that. Always maintain the property and look at a good location to purchase, so that when that time comes for you to move, you're able to sell it quickly. Number 5, and things not to do, is making emotional decisions, okay? Emotional attachment can cloud your judgment and lead you to overlook crucial flaws in the property, or make decisions that are not in your best financial interest. Again, guys, like I said, a lot of these people that have these crazy stories happening to them, most of them that I've seen on YouTube, they got caught because they did it without an agent. They did it without advice. They thought they could do things on their own. Also, it's happened where other agents may be new, so they may not be as competent. And unfortunately, these people do not get good advice. And so what happens is that they make emotional decisions. It's our job, guys, as your agent to bring you back down to earth, right? Things are happy. You guys are looking at properties. You're going under contract, this and that. But it's our job to make sure that you do not become house poor, or that you don't get stuck living in a neighborhood that you don't want to be in, or are stuck with a property that's going to give you more headaches, like the movie The Money Pit, which is a very cool movie with Tom Hanks, right? About a young man who buys this beautiful mansion at a cheap price, but it's nothing but a money pit, literally, okay? And so always when making a decision, it's emotions are high, but always try to go with a little bit of logic as well. Calm down, look at the numbers, look at the situation, and see what's happening so that you can make that decision better for you and your family. So guys, with that being said, I appreciate you guys being on this show today, on this video. And remember, if you have any comments, whether they're good, bad, or the ugly, write it down. If you have a certain topic that you would like for me to speak of, let me know as well. I'm here to serve. But if anything, write us an email, send us a text, or we have the link in the description for a Zoom link for us to have a FaceTime meeting. Doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, whether you could be in Germany, you could be in Korea, whatever the case may be, let's log on, let's talk and see how we can help you buy a property. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.